Hey everybody, and welcome to Desrin Does. I'm Desrin, and today we're doing a patch notes and progress review for Pantheon Rise of the Fallen, focusing mostly on the patch that just dropped on December 2nd, though I'm probably going to go a bit further back as well, just to highlight some of the changes from the previous patch too, since there's a lot happening in Pantheon lately. The way I'm going to be doing these types of videos is going to be mostly centered around patch notes, but with some extra context for, particularly important things. And whenever possible, I'd like to include the things that myself and other testers have noticed that just weren't in the patch notes. This happens a lot. Honestly, only a few members of the VR team actually submit notes to be included. So, there's pretty often a ton of stuff that gets added or changed that either just isn't in the patch notes at all or is like just briefly mentioned. So hopefully I can put a spotlight on that stuff for you guys. Also, the footage in the background is from my Pantheon November 2023 B-roll video. And I just want to note right off the bat that the visuals in that video are already somewhat out of date. But we'll get into that a bit more later. I will probably be doing an updated B-roll video during the Content Creator Week that comes at the end of this month, December. So we'll be able to see what 1 month of progress looks like. But yeah, anyway, without further ado, let's get into starting on these patch notes for the most recent patch. Came on December 2nd, 2023. So let's take a look at these. So first off, the warrior class, finally in. I'm not going to go over every single one of these abilities. You can read them here if you'd like. But the general gist is it's in up to about level 10, first iteration. So, it's pretty rough and ready, but it's in. And I've played one up to level 5 so far. It feels pretty dang good, honestly. Still, of course, something that is just kind of like thrown in, so it's not all fleshed out, and there's no mastery yet or anything like that, but it's in, and I'm liking it so far. On the other end of the spectrum, a lot of PA testers will kind of note that the paladin needs some love, and so it got a little bit of love. Reckoning points, as we see here, are now functioning properly. Reckoning points generate passively for paladins with the following parameters. So the general gist here is you get your first reckoning point after 60 seconds, and then the following points take longer and longer to generate. So you get your first point every minute, but then it takes like twice as long each time, more or less, for each additional point, up to 3. Now, paladins were locked out of generating wrath for 0.5 seconds after an incoming damage event. The lockout window has been halved, decreased to 0.25 seconds. Also, wrath generation from dots has been reduced to 10 wrath per dot damage, so it sounds like a nerf, but it's no longer subject to that 0.25 second lockout. So I think it's a general benefit there. Additional critical melee damage now increases wrath by 150, and incoming critical spell damage increases wrath by 200. So you get additional wrath when you get crit, which it'll probably come up more often, but right now if you get crit, it's pretty nasty, like sometimes one shot. So there's definitely some work to be done for that, but in this case, if you survive it, you do at least get a little bit of wrath bonus. Now onto the rogue. A few little things for the rogue. Adjusted the way shadow planning works. The new description is carefully assess an enemy from the shadows, increasing your critical chance by 2% every second while the buff lasts. Requires stealth, of course. And I don't know how long this can potentially last, but it is a pretty cool little scaling buff the longer combat goes. It is one advantage of Pantheon having slightly longer time to kill, is that these kind of abilities can really shine. Sprint to the shadows. Sprint speed bonus has been reduced. I love this, from superhuman levels. Obviously it was not working as intended before, but now it seems to be fixed. So fixed a bug with stealth where everyone could see stealth rogues but the rogue couldn't see them. This actually came up in 247, and goodness gracious, was it problematic. So it's really good to see that this is fixed. It was really funny though to enter stealth and then suddenly like you couldn't see anyone around you. Yeah. Wizard, Drax gonna laugh at me here, but Wizard Glint now has no cost. It is really good. That's the really basic Wizard, interrupt, which is important. Still pretty basic right now until that ability gets mastery, but it is now no cost, so that makes it very easy to use. Other combat stuff. Corrected an issue causing NPCs to swing their weapons and cast spells much less frequently than intended. Now, the effect of this is pretty noticeable. NPCs they're doing stuff now, and honestly, I think it feels pretty good. But if you're a PA tester, throw in the comments how you're liking it, because I just like to see mobs being a little more active. Now, also several more NPCs now have abilities that properly scale in power as they get higher level. Now, I haven't recently been to the higher levels like some people that are, putting so many hours into the pre-alpha test. But I have heard that it does kind of drop off in difficulty as you kind of go higher up. So that's probably a good change there. Now, this one's kind of a funny one. Fixed NPC Strike the Snake damage. Can confirm, not fixed. The tick for Strike of the Snake, for some reason, still seems to tick for about half of your HP. It's completely crazy. Same with Crown of Ashes. When an NPC attacks you with Crown of Ashes, it's similar thing. So hopefully they get that patched up pretty soon. Another one. So if a player wouldn't get in experience for an NPC they're fighting, they won't get skill ups from it either. So this was a little bit of an exploit that they patched up. Just another thing just to make things a little like consistent and not too exploitable. Okay, art updates. This is huge, and these lines don't really put it into perspective. Like I said at the beginning, the current footage that I've got right now is just not really up to date. I'm not going to pretend like it, it's not like it's a whole new game or anything, but the updates in this patch made a huge visual difference, and I'll try to explain some of it. First one is added several new weapon-based combat animations for player characters and NPCs. This is fairly significant, but it's one of those things that it's best when you don't notice it, right? When something's missing, you tend to notice it more. And now it's just like, oh, there's animations there. This one, sheathing weapons, is now considered when choosing which set of locomotion animations to play. What this means is if you have your weapon sheathed, you have a different running animation, basically. Currently, sheathing your weapons doesn't actually have them hang on your character. There's no animation for it either, so that's still coming along, but it does play a different animation when they are sheathed, which I think defaults to Z, by the way. New armor models are propagated throughout player itemization. One line really does not serve how big of a deal this is. So you might notice, if you look really closely at the B-roll footage, some characters will be running around with just like plain white basic modeled armor. This was placeholder. Don't worry, this was not like game ready stuff. This was just placeholder. And the general gist is now pretty much every armor I've seen at least has a model. They're not all unique models yet, but at least they have a model. And the difference this makes for the game world, just seeing players around, is substantial. Now it's just a matter of building more and having more unique models. Reskinned cloth ropes to support new cloth physics. So what this means is the tech is there, but the actual act of cloth simulation isn't in yet, just to let you guys know. Female characters are now animating properly and armor models are showing properly. The poor female characters in the last few weeks have been like it says, not animating properly, and a lot of the armor just wasn't showing up on them, which I'm sure a few of you guys were rejoicing in, underwear clad females running around, but for the sake of them, they actually have armor now, which is great. Fixed several model anchor points to ensure spell effects are showing on the correct body locations. So it's just a matter of like, you're throwing a spell and like stuff's at your hands or, on your head or however it's supposed to be. So again, just cleaning it up. Here's a big one. Finished the Spirit Manor point of interest. Added new layout elements and overgrowth. Now, the Spirit Manor, this is not to be confused with Seville Manor, but this is a POI up on the cliffs in Eastern Thronefast. Really cool POI now. They expanded it quite a bit, and it looks pretty dang good. It's very atmospheric. I can't wait to get a group and go in there, honestly. It looks great. I wish I could show you guys. But hopefully you'll see it later this month. Visual updates to the Gloom Fracture environment. This kind of goes along with it. There are Gloom Fractures in the game now, and the way this looks is actually super cool. You can imagine you go into a Gloom Fracture with your torch out or with your lantern belt or something like that, and it actually reduces the effect of your light source as you go into gloom. Looks really cool, and has practical implications as well. It makes it, it's claustrophobic and scary. Also, visual updates to the environmental ambience surrounding Spirit Manor. Again, just making that POI look really cool. Several updates to set dressing in Avelia, including internal furnishings and dwellings. Again, this one line doesn't really describe it. If you see the walls of all the buildings in the B-roll footage, they're very plain, right? This basically added texture to all of the houses and buildings, and there's a bit of furniture in them. You can go upstairs now without falling through the floor. It's a huge update, and again, it just dramatically improves how it feels. So great job there. Implemented new grass and wind tree shader. Again, huge deal. The new shader, I would say in 90% of cases, looks way better. In some cases where like the sun is like shining through the leaves, it's like really bright, so they may need to work on that a little bit, but overall it really makes the whole scene really cohesive and less cartoony, which I think a lot of people will appreciate. And the new grass is it's subtle, but I think it's good. It's fairly dense, not crazy, but it's at least there. Blends in pretty well. The ground textures are looking better. There are still a lot of missing like places where there's just no grass for some reason, so that's something I hope they follow up on, but new grass looks pretty good. Improved texture quality of the elkhorn and butternut trees. Again, this is one of those things that makes a huge difference. It's immediately noticeable when you see the trees. They're still very stylized, to be clear, but they don't look so like just crappy. So I can't wait to show that off too. Fixed collision issues inside various dwellings in Avelia. Like I said, you don't fall through the ceilings anymore. Heavy fog has lost a bit of weight and is no longer quite as heavy. I like the heavy fog, honestly. They didn't completely nerf it or anything. I've been in fog a few times since this patch, and it's still very atmospheric. Let's move on. Adventuring in NPCs. Spirit Manor has had a population pass update. So not only visual updates, but again, it's expanded, but also more mobs. And the mobs there, I think, are updated as well. Again, I'm really looking forward to getting a group to go in there. Here's another one. The Arcanery starting area has had several updates to improve the amount and variety of NPC population. This is totally true, and the main thing that I noticed was there are, I think they're called like mage killers or mage hunters, So there's actually humanoid NPCs up there now, not just skeletons. It actually is an amazing place if you're just starting a character to go to the Arcanery, which is through the little portal to go up to the Mage Tower there. Great place to get started. Pool of Paths starting area now has larger NPC population, again, just helping with that kind of initial level, like 1 to 4 experience. Several of the Godai camps have had more spawns added to them. I am so excited about this. In some places, they almost doubled the population. And what this actually ends up meaning is, one of my favorite places, which was you'd kind of bounce around maybe 4 little Godai points of interest and just do like a circle. Now they're actually respawning before you get through with that. So what it means is probably you can support basically twice as many groups at these areas now, which is just a huge bonus. And it's going to be a really big deal when that December 16th alpha, when the alpha testers come in, because the population is going to be absolutely nuts and the zone needs to support a lot of people. Low-level NPC respawn rate has been reduced to 3 minutes. Again, this helps with that, keeping those lower-level populations up. It makes a huge difference. I love how it feels now. Begin process of overhauling our rare NPC spawn chance and the rare loot drop chance for these NPCs. The way I've noticed this so far is the skeleton mage, it starts with a Z, that wanders kind of close to the road, a little bit past Crossroads. I haven't seen him since. So I think this is meant to make named a bit more rare. But I need a little bit more experience with this to see exactly what it means. Yeah, anything they can do to make those spawns more dynamic is great. A few new tasks have been added to the Arcanery starting area. I've done them. They're great. It's nice to have a few extra things to do up there. Now getting to audio. I've been saying over and over, cannot overstate the incredible work that PVL Audio has been doing for Pantheon. That's the group that Pantheon or Visionary Realms has subcontracted out to help do basically all the audio and music and integrate it into the game. They've done a stellar job. It's crazy. But yeah, male and female vocalization should be consistent across characters and NPCs now. Again, if you don't notice it, that's good. All current player abilities are now properly hooked up to the new spell audio system. This is a big deal. Not all of the spell audio, I think, is final, but it's kind of like the armor. It might not be the final armor or the final spell effect sounds, but having something there means a lot. I mean, it changes the feel of the game a lot. Several new music tracks, player and NPC sound effects, and overall mixing improvements. Very noticeable. I keep telling everybody I've been testing with, there's a new track that played when I was up at the Arcanery during the day. Beautiful track. The music in this game is actually starting to become very memorable to me, which is just great. The merchant and bank windows will now close automatically when a player moves too far away from the bank. So it didn't before, which caused all sorts of weird issues. People could put a quest item in the bank and then run to the quest turn in and then grab it from the bank. It was silly. So that's fixed. The skills list in the character sheet is now in alphabetical order. This is probably my favorite update. I'm kind of joking, but there's a lot of skills in Pantheon. And having to look through all the list without it being alphabetical was so annoying, and it's fixed now. The crafting schematics list window is now closed automatically when the crafting window is closed. Obvious, easy. Added support for the vendor sale price of crafted items to be based on the material type used to craft them. I think this isn't something that has made a change in game yet, but it allows them to more accurately set vendor prices in the future, which is going to be a big deal. Minor changes to currency UI to make it easier to click on currency and to display tooltips and stuff. Also very small thing, but noticeable. Very noticeable. Oh, also worth noting, this is one of those things that's not in the patch notes, but is in the game. But there's tooltips for a lot of new stuff now. Like it's a little thing, but being able to see like what does wisdom do on my character, like that, shows now. It's very, very nice little quality of life there. Speaking of quality of life, players can now use the /time command to display the current game hour. This was kind of a tester requested feature, just so people could like know what time it was, or maybe tracking spawns and stuff like that. The /drag command now optionally supports dragging a corpse by supplying the name of the player whose corpse should be dragged. Before you had to target them. It's just a little quality of life thing. Corpse dragging should now work a bit better. Just generally speaking, the corpse dragging, honestly, it works pretty good already. But they're just cleaning it up here. XP for NPC kills should be more consistent across the board. So this is one line to describe a huge change. I would say in general, XP seems to be increased a bit, but consistent is the key word here. In the last, few weeks or so, it's been a little confusing because some mobs will just give more XP than others, even though they're not more difficult. And now it's pretty consistent in the sense of you get about as much XP as the difficulty of the mob implies. So if it's a really difficult mob, like an undercon or whatever you want to call it, it will give more XP, which is really nice. I was tired of killing boars because they just happen to give more XP. So that's great. Huge change there. A few other little things before we get into the bug fixes. Drinks now have effects on them, or I should say they actually display their effects, like blackberry, sparkling, whatever, gives like some dodge chance. I think apple cider gives poison resist and stuff. Stuff like that. It actually shows the effect now in your buff window. So keep an eye out on that. Again, food and drink, very important. Big deal in the game. So let's see. Oh, and lastly, they did add another weather effect again. Not in the notes. So heavy rain. So we had light rain, which I actually showed in my B-roll video, but now we have heavy rain again. So they're continuing to add new weather effects. Great. Now let's get to some bug fixes. I'm gonna kind of skim through here and just kind of pick out the ones that I think are super important. So basically some character creation bug fixes, an issue with NPCs not actually showing their weapons that they're carrying. This one's probably pretty effectual. So a bug where skills were being increased more than it should have been on skill ups. There were some skills that were just randomly, like they would just go up super fast. So this is just fixing that. This is a huge one. Fix some issues with player corpses where bags would get put into bag slots in a different order than the player looted their corpse, and the bags would then be unusable until the player logged out and back in. Super annoying. Really glad that's fixed. This is another really silly quality of life thing, but the bank deposit button wasn't depositing all the coins sometimes. This happened to me all the time. I would say like 95% of the time it didn't work. It works now. It's great. So if I would need to throw my money in the bank, I just go click and it takes all my money. This is a really big one too. Possible fix for dying immediately after releasing if the player died after being hit by multiple mobs. I believe this is a pretty long-standing bug. It doesn't happen, or it hasn't happened super often to me. I don't think it's happened actually even once since like to the 247 and then the MMORPG coming back and all that. So glad it's gone though, because it's really frustrating to die again right after you get killed. Super bad. NPC corpses shouldn't despawn due to day or night cycle changes. That's actually a really big deal, because day and night would change, and then like you'd be trying to like skin a corpse or something, and it would poof. All right, gathering and crafting skill unlocks. So this is a pretty big change. A new set of crafting and gathering tutorial tasks have been added to the game. Some of the old crafting and gathering tasks have been removed as a result. Huge overhaul here. I've gone through pretty much all of the new kind of tutorial-like tasks, and it feels so much better. Very much more friendly to like just kind of, you know, making a new character. You get in, you're like, all right, if you want to start crafting, it's very easy to get into it. So highly recommend doing that if you're interested in crafting and you're in the pre-alpha. When starting a new character, you will have a note in your inventory that begins a task to talk to the scavenger in Avelia. The scavenger will unlock your gathering skills and provide you with starter tools. He also has a series of tasks for each gathering skill that you can optionally go through. So this is kind of a mix of the old way and the new way. So if you just want to like get your tools and go on a new character, if you're not interested in advancing that too much or crafting, you can just do it now, which I think is a huge burden off of a lot of people that, you know, didn't want to go through all these tasks to get their starter skills and equipment. So you can get basic stuff from the scavenger right off the bat now. It's amazing. And then to unlock crafting skills and optionally undertake starting tasks for each one, talk to the following NPCs. I'll list them for you guys. So the armorer, the clothier, the carpenter, the artificer, the tavern keeper, and the alchemist. They are in slightly different locations, some of them, so you just have to kind of look around. But you did want to note that these skills are unlocked immediately, and you don't need to undertake the tasks to begin crafting. Although I will agree with this. The tasks that you can do give you some free schematics, which is really nice and kind of walks you through the process. So if you know how to craft already, you can kind of just get going. But if you want a little bit more guidance and some free schematics, you can go through those tasks. Items and economy. Some vendor purchased weapons and armor have increased in price. This is fine. I think I've mentioned before that player itemization right now, there's a lot of items. Like it's pretty easy to get items, especially if you talk to other people, get social a little bit. You'll very easily come upon items. And so I think purchasing stuff from vendors is kind of a last resort anyway, but if you're rich, you can get decent gear just straight from the vendors. Normal and non-magical weapon and armor drops for several NPCs have been updated to better reflect our planned itemization approach. No rare drops were harmed in the implementation of these changes. Again, it's a big deal. Joppa has talked about, you know, maybe later in December/January, they're doing a huge itemization pass. Actually, I think it was Nefel that mentioned that, but they're doing a huge itemization pass. So I think they're kind of prepping for that a little bit. Because like there's just way too many. It's way too easy to get gear right now. Additional items have been added to some NPCs to support alchemy recipes. Again, crafting stuff. In-game models for armor and shields have been updated. This goes along with the art updates above. But, you know, if you do still find something that isn't, you know, it's got that old white placeholder, gray box kind of a thing, report it, of course. Stack size of drink items has been increased. I think everybody liked that. The emblems and sigils dropped by some NPCs may now be traded or sold. This is actually a huge deal. They, for some reason, weren't tradable in the last patch. And for those of you that don't know what these do, they're kind of like the keys that unlock the special schematics. There's several different kind of sets or really cool dropped schematics that can make really kind of the best items in the game right now. And in order to craft each one of those, you need a emblem or sigil. So being able to trade those now is excellent. Vendor purchase prices for crafted bags have been significantly reduced. This is just nice, you know, to get your first bags. But again, you know, just talk go into OOC chat and try to get some bags that way too. Players are crafting them like crazy, so don't worry about that too much. Many other items have had their vendor prices adjusted, as economic tuning for 1 to 15 is ongoing. What this generally means is it seems like a lot of the stuff that you just need as like a necessity or to get started is cheaper, and then some of the kind of later stuff is more expensive. So just normal stuff. Gathering. Celestium dust can no longer be gathered from azurite ore, pine trees, blackberry bushes, hemp plants, wild vegetables, or from skinning low-level NPCs. This is a really interesting one. If you don't craft, you may not know that you can't really put celestium dust into these really low-tier items in the first place. So it does kind of make sense that you can't get celestium dust from harvesting these. So generally, this is a great little balance thing. I will say dust is pretty rare now though. Just because you can't farm that low level, you actually have to go to the harder stuff. So be prepared for that. I'm sure players trading dusts will jack those prices up as they should. Several new types of harvesting nodes have been added to support alchemy. And some of these plants may appear only during the day or night. I've experienced this several times now, and there's like moon lilies, and I've seen gloomberries, which I suspect only grow near gloom fractures. It's really interesting, and I love it. The minimum amount of material gathered from many normal-sized nodes has been increased. I think this is kind of overshot quite a bit. I feel like it's not just increased, it's like doubled, at least. So it's very easy to get materials now, or at least basic materials. So we'll see if that gets adjusted more in the future. Again, gathering yields for fibers like hemp, cotton, and flax have been increased. So it's like it's doubled, So now it's like you go to a hemp plant and you get like 5 or 6 instead of in the past you get like 1 to 3. It's pretty huge increase. The stack size for many gathered resources has been increased. Also, something a lot of players have been asking for. Some mining node spawn points have been altered for risk and reward considerations. I have a screenshot that I wish I could share of an example of this, because they just don't want it to be super easy to get to some of these nodes. In the past, you could, level 1, you could go on a climbing adventure and get a bunch of nodes that you probably shouldn't be able to get to with basically no risk. So now they're adding risk. Easy. Good stuff needs to be hard to get. And a part of the tenets there. General crafting stuff. Prices for the first 2 sets of crafting schematics in most professions have been reduced, like a lot. Like the starting stuff is now like 1 silver something. In general, it's very cheap to get started, which makes sense. You need a lot of schematics. So a carpentry workbench has been added to Avalia. This was the only thing holding back making boxes, like bank boxes in the past. So finally been added. So now it's like we can actually craft bank boxes. It's a huge, huge quality of life thing. Yeah, I can't celebrate that enough. Several crafting stations have been moved to be near the NPC that grants the appropriate skills. This goes along with the kind of like better tutorial starting experience in Avalia. Just stuff is kind of where it makes sense. So it's great. A laboratory has been added to the Alchemist's house now that alchemy is in the game. I guess, that's spoiler alert for later along, but crafting vendors have also been relocated to be near the NPC that grants those skills. Again, everybody's kind of where they should be. The number of pelts required to refine tattered leather has been increased. This makes sense because you get a lot of pelts. Like, you get a lot of pelts. Anyway, jewel crafting. Jewel crafting was actually introduced last month, but so we do have a few updates here. But the schematics for copper bands, copper chain necklaces, and copper stud earrings has been reworked and should now be functional. These schematics now require a component, aka a signet, in their manufacture. I'll let you guys know right now, to make those signets, it requires dust. So making jewelry just suddenly got way more expensive. So just keep that in mind. If you do get some jewelry, it's kind of a big deal. Schematics for signets are now available in the jewel crafting vendor. Obviously, the effects for zircon gemstones has been changed. Basically, they had health and mana regen on these things, and it was extremely broken. It basically trivialized a lot of the high-end content. So I think Nefel said that might return as like a late game thing, but it was kind of proven to be a little too impactful. So they changed that. I think it's like attack power now. The effects of other types of gemstones has been rebalanced again, kind of around the OP stuff that they had. Now, lastly, crafting, alchemy. The first iteration of alchemy has been added to the game. Both offensive and defensive items may be created. I cannot wait to get into this. There are like, I don't know, maybe 10 different slots for ingredients in alchemy. It's madness, and I love it. I can't wait to figure stuff out. I only know how to make 2 different things right now, but I'm really eager to find more recipes there, or combinations, I should say. Also, it says, as with cooking, you may use any campfire as a crafting station for alchemy, as well as the alchemy workbench in Avelia. So just in case you didn't know, you don't have to go to that workbench. You can go to a campfire. Alchemy uses a variety of ingredients, including NPC drops and gathered resources. Some of those ingredients don't seem to be working yet. I expect that in the near future they'll get all hooked up, but it is pretty cool to see some of the things that happen to be able to go into those crafting slots. Now, this is also kind of a big one. In its initial iteration, alchemy combinations can be quite complicated and require up to 5 different ingredients to create. To help players with learning alchemy combinations, hints have been added to the world. I actually got one of these. It's actually so neat. It's just like it's a little item I found on a mob, and it's a piece of a recipe. And the descriptive text says like 3 ingredients. It's like ... 3 ingredients. So it's like that's part of a recipe of some kind. And hopefully later today I will try to figure out what those other ingredients are, because that's a really cool way to help people figure out what the combinations are. So that is the end of the December 2nd patch. I was going to go into some of the older patch notes, but this video is already getting super long, and I know you guys probably don't really care that much. Just know that a lot happened when they converted from 247 back to MMORPG testing, and just keep in mind that this patch is about 2 weeks since our last one. You see it, the one previously came on the 18th of November, and I will say just the patches have been huge, and this is the longest we've had to wait for a patch as well. And so there's a lot happening in the world of Pantheon right now, and it's very exciting, and I'm really happy to be able to finally do these videos. This is the kind of stuff I just really enjoy. I like digging into these things and kind of extrapolating for you guys, just to help everyone know what's going on. And I think just we need more out there in the world to let people know that Pantheon is actually kind of speeding ahead right now, at least in comparison to prior years. And it's something that I really love to see. And I'm glad to have you guys with me to receive some of this information and know that stuff is happening, whether you're a PA tester watching this video or someone just interested in Pantheon. I just want you to know that stuff is happening. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me on my first patch notes video. Stick around if you want more content like this. Also, like I said, I'm going to be making another B-roll video coming up later this year. during the Content Creator Week. We'll also be doing a lot of streaming. I might be streaming some Pantheon solo or with Pantheon Plus. It's a toss-up. You just don't know. Lastly, you guys know the YouTube stuff to do. It was awesome to get like 50-some people subscribing just after my first upload. So if you haven't subscribed yet and you want to see more updates on Pantheon and maybe other stuff, I'll be doing patch notes videos, the B-roll videos, and whatever else I can kind of come up with to really kind of get this channel going. So appreciate you all, and I'll see you guys in the next one.